Hi everyone, Avalon here. Okay, so when I went and found the farm commune at 15, from a very upper middle class family, pretty rich people, to a commune of 1,600 people that were living spiritually and intentionally so that they, did not have to go off of the farm, which was 2,000 acres of land in the middle of Tennessee that they had gotten. So when I got there, I was taught, for one, that we were going to live in homes that housed anywhere from 35 to 45 people, and that when you had your babies, or better yet, as a teenager, they'd call down and see if anybody wanted a teenager because we were strong and we could work. Now, Stephen, who was our teacher, his philosophy that we were following at the time, with agreement to do so, was that if we are working as hard as we can and paying attention to the big picture called here now, for instance, I would wash dishes if it was my turn to do the dishes, and there were a bunch of people, like 6 other folks, at home, cleaning the house, taking care of the kids, getting ready to cook for the people coming in from work and the men, and rolling tortillas and this kind of thing, and paying attention to the bubbles and the suds and how clean the dish was, and then going and doing the next thing with as much intent and staying in the here and now, that it was actually a meditation, so I was unable to get into my head and think, but instead we were so busy taking care of ourselves and each other that it worked. So we had a much calmer, like meditative state kind of a lifestyle. Now, one of the things we learned was that, I learned right away, is that the farm was vegan. There was no meat. There was no leather. The only herbals that we did were from the land, like peyote, mushrooms, usually on Sunday. However, we did have marijuana when we were working throughout the day, and we'd all get together and smoke weed, and we called that communion, because we were communing with each other. And when we would do that, we would talk about, cool ways to make the farm better, or cool ways to help out, Guatemalan people, or, just interesting things that, were not related to TV or anything in the government, but they were more related to us. And another thing is we didn't pay for anything. Like, we would get shoes. There's days shoes were at the head of the road, go get them. We would, get our clothes, we would do like a dry goods, like to share clothes we'd already used. We'd go to the store to get, food for our household. But when you live on an intentional community, a spiritual intentional community, one thing that is that when you're growing your own food, you're going to need to work, because otherwise you won't eat. And plus, if you don't work and everybody else is, you're noticed. Anyway, so back in those days, soybeans did not have GMOs, and Stephen said that, rather than feed animals and kill them, feed animal soybeans and then kill them to feed other people, why don't we eat soybeans instead? And that way we could, feed other people. Because he had a theory that, for one, that, people can hear you better and are much more spiritually inclined if they've got a full belly versus, if they are starving. No one ever starved on the farm, and no one ever lacked for anything on the farm. Maybe their own personal space, because we did live in, houses for that many people, and there were single women rooms, single men rooms, wood stove heat, and you learned how to do things like bring the battery in from the car for your electricity, and walked everywhere to work, and have your babies at home. We had medical, and pretty much if you came to the farm and you did have a baby and you didn't feel like you could care for that baby and wanted to leave the baby there, we would keep the baby and care for the baby as though it were ours, but of course when you came back, you could have your baby if you wanted it. So that was just a little something to let you know about how we worked it out on the farm sometimes, and there's more. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that story, and there's more. Take care.